Hi everyone. So, out of one thing I thought I might start tracking is Twitter followers because Twitter followers is quite a good indicator in terms of exposure. Of course, it's not a guaranteed, it's not the accuracy might not be as high because Twitter is probably one of those platforms that are more popular around, among a younger age demographic. And to prove that, if you look at Biden's at rank number 4, yet he's number one in the polls, it kind of shows you the amount of people that are supporting Biden tend to be of an older age demographic. So hence why he's doing really well in the polls, but it may not be the best representation of that. Um, so by tracking followers, it's more trying to analyze has their exposure increased. I wouldn't say the like the higher candidates will see a increased exposure as they go, but we can see how that goes. Like I mean, Trump has over 60 million followers. So in terms of this, like most people could start adding more followers as they go, but we'll have to see how that goes. So it's right now, if we assess what numbers are, Sanders is clearly in the lead by at 9.5 million, then by Warren 5.2. And then if you look at Booker, like Booker has 4.3 million followers, yet he's not actually third in the polls. He's more about fifth or sixth in the polls. So, or even, yeah, so around about there. So it's not necessarily matching in terms of his Twitter follower rankings, but it could just be a really clear sign that a lot of supporters for Booker tend to be much younger. Um, and then you've got Harris at 3 million, O'Rourke 1.5, Buttigieg 1.3, Klobuchar 744,000. So here, once you get to this area, everyone kind of has less than a million kind of followers. So the one thing I would say is would be quite interesting, especially after debates, after each candidate has a bit more exposure time. I'd say these Twitter follower numbers might start increasing, especially for the lesser well-known candidates. And I think that's kind of why I'm measuring this metric, because in terms of like if we want to say Yang, Gabbard, Castro, Steyer, like those candidates aren't that well known right now. And then if we track the numbers and they tend to increase over time, then we can say certain events help bring more exposure to these candidates. Um, so in terms of exposure, like I'd say Styers might start jumping up from these like numbers here. Right now he's at 244,000. And Styers is kind of like a lesser known candidate, but he's worth about close to $2 billion. So if you consider someone with that much wealth who wants to spend 100 million on running for candidacy, he doesn't really have that many policies. His policy is to impeach Trump, and that's kind of what he's running for. So I don't know how strong of a candidate he would be, but in terms of exposure, if you're willing to spend 100 million on your campaign, that's a lot of advertising time that you're going to get on television. If we compare it to someone like Yang, Andrew Yang relies on donations. So his kind of donations that he's been getting every 3 months is around $2-3 million every 3 months. It has increased in the recent month. Like Andrew Yang did get 2.8 million in 3 months or something around there. Oh, not in 3 months, 1.5 months. Correct me there. So it's 1.5 months that he got about $3 million. But if you compare to Styers, who has no pressure to raise money at all, except reaching the donation numbers, which he has reached the donation numbers, he's just missing the polls. He's got 3 out of the 4 polls. So in terms of that advertising money, it's making a huge difference. I wouldn't say Styers has popped up on my radar, but he's definitely just in terms of statistics and being able to reach the next debates, he's coming out of nowhere. So in terms of that, I'd say measuring these numbers for the lesser known candidates is going to be quite useful. For the top candidates, maybe less so. Like I think Sanders is really well known already. But we can kind of track that and maybe we'll be surprised. So that's why I thought it'd be a nice exercise, especially with the debates coming up in about 3 weeks' time. Should be quite an interesting, kind of statistic to kind of analyze as we go. Of course, not everyone uses Twitter, and not everyone's going to agree on that Twitter is a good way to start analyzing how much exposure a candidate might be getting. But I'd say it kind of gives you some idea. Like if these candidates with less than 1 million followers right now start going over 1 million, then that means you might consider that they might have a bit more support than most people would consider. Like if you consider that the top candidates right now all have over 1 million followers, you would expect the lesser known candidates to start having 1 million followers to start being in that kind of area of getting higher percentages in their polls. So I'm not too sure if higher followers means higher numbers in terms of polling, but it can give a good indication of that. So hence why I probably aim to update this. Currently, I'm not too sure if I'll just update it every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or just wait for major events. We all know after debates kind of give so much exposure that Twitter follower numbers generally jump up at an abnormal amount. So I'll keep you posted, but if you aren't quite interested, subscribe and you'll get an indication when I do put this up in terms of an update. So I think it'll be quite interesting. So let me know what you think about it. And until next time, thanks for your time. Bye bye.